Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Hello, welcome. Pay very close attention to these teachings. They are from a work of Adi Shankaracharya, Viveka Chudamani, and it is Advaita Vedanta. So these are the teachings that you find in the scriptures. They are according to the scriptures. So pay very attention to these teachings. Listen very carefully to these teachings. Then you should reflect upon them, reflecting a lot upon these teachings, and then meditate upon these teachings so that they may bear fruit in your heart. Continue benediction, verse 520. Now looking unto his disciple who had attained the blissfulness of Samadhi and had awakened forever in the consciousness of the self, the great master with the heart full of joy addressed these words to him. It's a rare moment in which the master can see the disciple reaching the end of his journey. This world is nothing but Brahman, because Brahman is the only reality. See this always with your spiritual eye, with unruffled mind, and in all circumstances. What is there to be seen by the eyes except only objects of sight? In like manner, to him who knows Brahma, what is there wherever his intellect may play except reality? So he is making the example that those who don't know who they really are, those who do not know Brahman, they can see the objects of sight, or senses perceive the objects of their nature. But those who know Brahman, what is there to see except reality always, no matter what the intellect plays? So whatever is the intellect is playing, like whatever is the mirage, whatever is the dream, his eyes will see reality only, always. Who is there that would like to give up the enjoyment of the supreme blissfulness and be satisfied with emptiness, when the full moon is shining in the sky to gladden the hearts of all? Who cares to see a picture of the moon? So who would trade the supreme bliss for the worldly enjoyments and be satisfied with emptiness? Because that's what the world of appearances has, is nothing, just emptiness. And if you can see it directly, give the example of the moon. If you can see it directly, why should you look up for photographs of the moon? So if you can feel that blissfulness directly, why should you be after of sense pleasures and distracting yourself with them? By the thought of things unreal, there is no happiness forever, nor the cessation of pain. Therefore, by the thought of that one indivisible bliss, live in the eternal by constantly by being constantly watchful of the Atman, meaning just by contemplating that which is unreal, that blissfulness disappears. And the cessation of pain continues. Therefore, now that you have seen directly, that you have tasted directly, be constantly watchful of the Atman, be always tuned to the Atman, rest always in the Atman. Seeing your own self everywhere, knowing thy own self to be one everywhere, enjoy blissfulness in the self, and so pass your time, O great soul. So despite what your physical eyes are seeing, you just see the self everywhere. And knowing thy own self to be everywhere because you have seen it already, enjoy that blissful in the self despite what circumstances may be. And so pass your time, the time of that body, until it dies. To see many in that one indivisible, changeless self is like building castles in the air. So being one full of that blissfulness and attaining the supreme bliss, be quiet forever. So to see the many in that one, to still see the objects, the others in this mirage, in this dream, to see this dream in that one, indivisible, changeless self, is like building castles in the air. So if you're seeing it, it's like building castles in the air. It means it has no substance. So being one full of that bliss, being always in touch with that bliss, and attaining supreme peace, be quiet forever, become that stillness. This quiet state is the state of great peace, where the intellect ceases to think about the unreal and where the knower of Brahman, the great soul, enjoys the blissful of oneness always by being one with Brahman. So this samadhi is the state of great peace, where the intellect ceases to think about the unreal because it disappears, it is taken by Brahman, by the source. So intellect works no more, just that ecstatic state. The great soul, the knower of Brahman, the great soul, enjoys the blissfulness of oneness, samadhi, always by being one with Brahman. For one who has realized his own self, there is no other state more pleasant than this quietness, which comes from the absence of all desires. For one who has realized his own self, this is the highest of the highest. There is no other state more pleasant. Everything else is not even comparable. And this quietness comes from the absence of all desires. Because without the absence of all desires, wakefulness cannot be there. Real wakefulness. He feels the light in his own self. And though he may be walking, standing, sitting, or lying on his back, or in any state whatever, he remains satisfied in his own self, always thoughtful. So, as he is merged in his own self, he feels the light. And though the body may be walking, standing, sitting, or lying on his back, or in whatever state, Jagrat, Swapno, Susupti, he remains conscious of his own self. So satisfied, always thoughtful, always merged into that Brahman, no matter what the body apparent is doing. He who has known the truth, for him there can be no rule as to place, time, position, direction, purpose, or anything. These have no control over him. So an awakened one is not subject to rules. Nothing can be put it onto him. Because rules as to place, time, position, direction, purpose, these are about the body, the upadis, when they had apparently an identity. But for him who is awakened, he is not the body anymore, so these rules do not apply. Knowledge does not require any medium to know that this is a picture. What rule is required except the real nature of the thing? To know oneself, what rules, what conditions are necessary? So, the rules are set as a medium for something. So, you accept the rules because, well, you have certain needs. But the knower of the truth, only one need does he has. Only one medium does he needs, and that is himself. Nothing else is required, so no rules apply to him. They can have no power over him. This Atman is ever established in its own glory. That is proof by itself. To establish it, neither time, place, nor purification is needed. This was needed. Time, place, purification, this was needed for the seeker of truth, the one that was still bounded by illusion, to purify himself, to become Brahman-like. But for him who has achieved this, none of this is needed. To know that I'm Devadatta does not require any proof. So, for a knower of Brahman, the knowledge that I'm Brahman does not require any proof. What? You are impertinent. Do you ask for proof of the Atman by whose self-effulgence, as by that of the sun, everything is manifested? That which is non-self, insignificant, unreal, insatiate, how can that be a manifester of that? The scriptures and all the sacred books and all the teachers of the world have their existence through his existence. How can they manifest him who is the knower of all? The Atman is self-effulgent, of illimited power, incomparable, the consciousness of all, knowing whom one becomes free from all bondages and is glorified. He laments not nor rejoices in the enjoyment of the senses. He neither attaches nor detaches himself. He stays always in his own self, content and in perpetual blissfulness within. So in a sense, this is what seekers are trying to mimic, not understanding that they are killing themselves with that, because this is a state of a knower of truth, not the state of a seeker. So for him, for the seeker, the sense pleasures are like poison. For the knower of truth, they cannot touch him. So he laments not nor rejoices in the enjoyment of the senses. He neither attaches nor detaches himself, because it doesn't touch him. He stays always in his own self, content in perpetual blissfulness within. The child, forgetting hunger and pain, plays with the toys. In like manner, the knower of Brahman, forgetting me and mine, rejoices in the Atman forever. He eats food, but is free from anxiety. He drinks the water of truth from the Guru. He sleeps anywhere, in a sepulchre, in a forest, alone. His clothes do not require to be washed or dried. The ground is his bed. He doesn't walk. Does he walk? Yes, in the streets of Vedanta. Does he play? Yes, his play is in the supreme Brahman. So he eats food, but is free from anxiety, nor anxieties for tomorrow, for nothing. He drinks the water of the truth from the Guru. He sleeps anywhere. It doesn't matter, no distinctions. His clothes do not require to be washed or dried. The ground is his bed. And does he walk? Yes, in the streets of Vedanta, by the most highest standards. Does he play? Yes, his play is in the supreme Brahman. This is where his consciousness dwells. This body may be a coach and may enjoy the comforts that come with it. But the knower of the self enjoys them at the will and desires of others, like a child without any manifest signs of renunciation, but unattached within. So the knower, the body, may be a coach and may enjoy the comforts that come with it. So the body may be in a coach and enjoy the comforts that come with it. But the knower of the self enjoys them at the will and desires of others, not because of his desires. If he is on that coach, it's because of others' desires. He just went along. Like a child doesn't choose where it is. It goes where the parents goes. But without any and he enjoys them without any manifested signs of renunciation. He's not defending himself, not putting it aside, but he is completely unattached within. It's like for a very poor person to be offered a banquet, for example, it would be the supremest happiness. But to a rich person that has abundance in food, that banquet would be insignificant. So the one who delights in Brahman, how will be impressed or attached to these so small, so insignificant pleasures? Sometimes the signs of a knower of Brahman are his clothes, sometimes precious clothes, sometimes clothes of deer or tiger skin, and sometimes clothes of knowledge. Sometimes he behaves like a madman, and sometimes like a child. Thus he wanders in this world. Sometimes the signs, but the signs, they are just signs, and the signs are for those who can see. But understand that the real vision, only a seeker of truth may have the possibility to see a knower of truth. May have the possibility, depending on their level of thirst for liberation, for example. Because depending on the knower of Brahman, he may show different things. He may use clothes to give signs for seekers to recognize, or he may show signs to discredit any sign of being a knower of truth, to push away others. That depends on a lot of things. So, some clothes like tiger skin, they reveal someone supposedly who has conquered his senses. So that is used by a master. But many wear that and didn't do it. So what to know? The real seer, the real seeker, sees with his heart, not with these eyes. But some signs can be there if it is if they are supposed to be there. Like I said, depending on, I will not enter in this question more. But he also can behave as a madman, sometimes like and sometimes like a child, and sometimes like a worldly person, and sometimes like a good person, sometimes like a bad person. Depends on what he wants to show and what he doesn't want to show. Depends on a lot of factors. Ever desireless in all enjoyments, alone, always without a companion, thoughtful, always satisfied in the self, living always in all, he wanders in this world. Ever desireless is the source of bliss. What desires can be there? So he has no desires, even going through what others call enjoyments. Alone, he is always alone. Now, seekers may wonder, oh, the master is always alone. Of course he is always alone. Only he exists. There's no one else there to keep him company. No one else exists, so he is always alone. Wherever he looks, he sees himself only. Always without a companion. It's him alone, so how can there be a companion? Thoughtful is mind merged to Brahman. Always satisfied in the self. Living always in all, not just everybody, but all, because he is all, the basis of all, substratum of all. He wanders in this world, apparently. Sometimes he appears like a fool, sometimes like a wise man, sometimes as a king, full of possessions, sometimes as an ignorant man, sometimes quiet, sometimes as that great snake that attracts with its mesmeric power, sometimes like a worthy man, very much respected, sometimes in servitude, sometimes unknown. The wise one wanders thus, always delightful in the blissful self. So, appearances in the end are always deceiving. And even if the awakened one reveals itself, those who sleep, they cannot take it. They may believe or not believe, but that doesn't make any difference about real actual seeing, because real actual seeing implies a very high standard seeker of truth and direct experience of it. So sometimes he appears like a fool, sometimes like a wise man. So like a fool, when he doesn't want others to come close, or certain others to come close, he may behave like a fool, like a madman. Sometimes like a wise man, and that serves its own reasons. When it is about teaching, for example. Sometimes as a king, and he reveals as a wise man in the purpose of teaching, so that trust can be established for that specific reason. But that's complicated. Let's not enter much into that. Sometimes as a king, full of possessions. This makes other heads scratch. Like King Janaka had a kingdom and others would question. So, but if he is enlightened one, so why does he has all these possessions? Sometimes as an ignorant man, a man that didn't went to school, that didn't study, that apparently knows nothing. Sometimes quiet, just reserved, not speaking anything. Sometimes as that great snake that attracts with its mesmeric power. Sometimes with charisma that attracts many towards it. Sometimes like a worthy man, very much respected. Sometimes in servitude also. and sometimes unknown. Well, many times unknown, because it doesn't matter how it presents itself. Like I said, without direct experience, you really don't know. But sometimes these knowers of truth, they just walk unknown. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows that they are awakened ones. But he wanders thus, always delighted in the supreme, in the bliss supreme. Without riches, yet always contented. Helpless, yet full of power. Without enjoyment, yet ever content. Not like others, he cannot be compared to ordinary people. By seeing equality everywhere, engaged in action, yet doing nothing. Reaping the results of actions, yet enjoying not. Living in the body, and yet without identifying with the body. And, though finite, yet all-pervading. This knower of Brahman is never affected by pleasure, pain, good or evil, even if it appears to be. So, without riches, he is not the body, so how can he have anything that is from the nature of that body-mind? So, it doesn't matter if the body has or it doesn't. He has no possessions whatsoever, because he's always absorbed in Brahman. So without riches, yet ever contented, always contented, because he is the source of all bliss. Helpless. Everybody is helpless in some way, but he is helpless like everybody else, but full of power. Power is, in this case, is the knowledge of who he really is. That is the highest power. The power, the knowing, the fully experience of knowing. You are an eternal being. You're not the body. So what or who can hurt you? Without enjoyment, and yet contented. Without enjoyment, because enjoyments pertain to the body-mind, not to him. But he is ever contented. He is the source of contentment. Not like others, he cannot be compared to ordinary men. This is obvious. First of all, to arrive here, he could not be an ordinary man. Seeing equality everywhere. Everywhere he sees himself only. So he sees equality everywhere. Engaged in action, yet doing nothing. Body is continually acting, eating, defecating, peeing, and whatever else activities the body is doing. Yet doing nothing, because he is not the body. Reaping the results of actions, yet enjoying not. So the results of actions are coming to that body, but he is not enjoying them because he is not that body. Living in the body and yet without identifying with the body. He is living in the body and in all bodies, but okay. Living in the body but not identifying with the body, always tuned with the self. And though finite, the body is finite, it will end. Yet all-pervading, that's his real nature of the Atman, of Brahman. This knower of Brahman is never affected by pleasure, pain, good or evil. He is always in Brahman.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.